Okay, I think we'll get there in the end. This is about take number 5. Anyway, it's Arlene here, Stitching in the Fens. I'm just sitting in my studio, my art studio at the minute, and I was about to do an adventure on one of my my pieces I'm working on. And I thought, wouldn't it be great to share that process with you of what I'm about to do in the studio. Now, those of you who had watched my whip parade or have been following me would have seen some of these other pieces, which I'm going to show you first, just to give you an idea of what I'm about to take on. Now, you might have remembered this piece of Ada here, which I did show. And this is the piece that it went with, that piece there. Okay, that's a little hat there. And it went with that piece. And what I'm about to do is something similar effect. Not the same. Apologies for the unironed state of it, but I don't tend to iron my whips. So I'm about to do something like that on a piece. But while I was getting all the bits and pieces together, my eyes spotted something on the finished pile. And I thought, oh, that could also be improved with a bit of special effects. So I don't know if you remember this piece. This is one of my very early finishes, still waiting on the pile for Simon. It was from Etsy. It's called The Witch's Inn. Can't remember who it is. I do have the pattern and I did show it on one of my previous videos, but I really, you know, it's filed away somewhere. I changed the little cat to a white cat to go with my Rick and Pip, my 2 little white boys. And it's got a little charm of a frog and a little skull. And I'm quite happy with it. And it's just going to be put in a very simple black frame, very skinny. But I thought to myself, that could benefit from a little bit of embellishment before I show you the main piece that I'm about to work on. Anyway, so what I did was got together the ingredients that I used to produce this. One of the things I use is a stencil. That's how I get my spider's web. And then I've chosen to use inks for doing the work on it, actually applying the color. Now, you can use various things. However, my thinking is, and with my textile experience, these pieces are not going to be washed. That's the first consideration. Or become a cushion or something like that where they get heavy wear, okay? They're going to be behind glass, and also they're not going to be handled an awful lot. But I also need to consider, if I'm doing it like this piece, not so bad because it's finished. I'm not going to really handle this apart from Simon framing it. However, the other piece, the pink one I showed you before, obviously I'm going to be handling it because I'm going to be stitching it. So I need to think, is what I'm going to use suitable for those purposes? Now, luckily, being an artist in my studio, I have a whole arsenal of products that I use in my mixed media practice. And, you know, so I have a few things to choose from. So anyway, one of the things I decided to go with, so the one I decided to use is this product here, which is VersaFine Clear. Those of you who do paper crafts, you will be familiar with this product. And basically what it is a pigment ink, and it's archival, and it's pretty much permanent when you put it on. I think it has a little bit of oil in it. Now, when I say that, it's not going to leave a residue on your work or do anything weird. It just has a product, I think, a little bit of oil in it to help it to have that color fastness and to stick to the work. Yeah, so that's the one I'm going to go for, and I've picked out like some of the colors here, which I'm going to use. Maybe not. They're the main suspects, okay? So those are the ones. You can find them readily online. They sell them on Amazon and various craft shops and stuff like that. So you shouldn't have any problem finding them. The ones I decided I would not go for is this one here, which is another type, which I have used. I have used this on fabric, but it is a this one is from Lavinia Inks. Lavinia Stamps. Nice company, actually, worth checking them out. They do all sorts of products on there. And basically this one I'm not using because this one is more water soluble and water mixable, and that is not what I'm going for at this time. Now, I did notice when I went back to look at this piece again, because, you know, sometimes when I'm working on my art pieces, I forgot what I used, but I usually remember when I look at it. And this one here did have a little bit of acrylic paint here. but I don't really want to do that on there necessarily. And that was a pearlized acrylic, so I could do, I suppose, but I'm not sure if it's necessary at this stage. And the acrylic can clog up your holes on your fabric, so you need to be a bit careful with that. But I did notice that I did use some of these products on this one to get this sort of misty look at the time. And these are Ranger. They are Tim Holtz's Distress Oxide. You could use those as well for stamping. They are water soluble though, so if you get it wet or something, you know, it's liable to want to run. But it can be nice if you're looking for a sort of misty look. And I think what I had done was actually I'd sort of sponged some of it on this particular fabric when I was doing the dyeing process, when the fabric was still damp. So we won't be using those either because they're not really suitable for what we're doing here. I just thought I'd just show you. And incidentally, while I was in the drawer, I came across my little tin here because Ranger also do a range here of archival inks too. You see they're in small pots. I think you can get them in bigger pots, but I'm not going to use those. I'm going to use my VersaFine Clear for this particular project. So yeah, so what I've decided looking at it, oh by the way, this is the stencil I'm going to use, and it's from this company here, All and Create. Okay, that's them, All and Create. Yeah, so that's who it's from there. So, and you can find them online. Most good craft shops have them. Craft Stash in the UK do sell them, but you know, they're quite readily, they have their own shop as well. So without further ado, we're going to lay the stencil down. I've decided I'm going to put a little stenciling here, a little bit there, and maybe a little tiny bit here, okay? Because things look quite nice in threes, and also that allows your eye to move around the area. So I'm going to just lay the stencil down. Now, I'm not looking to put the whole spider's web on. That's not generally how I work. I like to do bits, like what I call breaking the stencil, okay? So what I like to apply with is one of these sponges here. And I get these from Lavinia Stamps, but you can get them all over the place. So I've chosen my colors. I'm going to go with a gray. I'm going to go with this Twilight. I decided not to go with a black, and in fact I'm not, yeah, I just went to a little bit of gray, a little bit Twilight, and I'm just looking at it thinking it is a bit, I know it's, you know, it's meant to not have a lot of color in it, but I thought it'd be quite nice with a little bit of this purple. The purple is called Monarch. The gray is Morning Mist, and my my navy blue sort of color, which I love this color, I use a lot, is Twilight. So what I'm going to do, and you know, you got to be brave, right? If you're not sure, best thing to do is get a piece of paper, a bit of scrap, and experiment. You don't need a lot of these inks. They're very pigment rich. They're very strong, right? So if I open it up to show you, for those of you who've never seen it, what they look like, they're like an ink pad. Okay. Now, because I'm you know, a bit more experienced, I'm not going to be bothered to test it. I'm just going to go straight in. Okay. And what you're going to notice is I'm going to open all three of them at the same time. Okay. Now you need to be very careful. You see what happened there? Very easily going on your paws. So what you want to do is you want to always have a little cleaner. One of the ladies who demonstrates on Lavinia Stamps, I love it, she calls it her Inky Binky. So you need a little bit of an ink wiper there, just to be sure. You need to keep an eye on your hands. So, and it will wash off your fingers. It's not going to stain your fingers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this sponge here, and I'm going to very gently, that's my blue, gently touch the blue. Notice I gently touched it, okay? And then I'm going to test it. Now, nothing much came off of there, so I haven't got enough on the sponge because nothing came off. So I'm going to go again, and I'm just going to pat it on. All right. And then I'm going to dip it over in the purple and put a little bit of the purple on. I quite like the purple. And what I'm doing is I'm sponging randomly, okay? I haven't gone, you see, I've got to really hold it down. But I'll put a little bit, I'm moving it around, because what you're going to get is that spot color effect when I lift it off. And I've got some more of that navy there, which I really like. And I've kind of gone outside the stencil a little bit as well. And I'm going to go back for that purple because we're looking for a little color. Yeah, so that's the purple there. I'm finding I'm not really needing the gray because, to be honest with you, the Twilight, which is the navy blue one, is picking up a little bit of green that was on the stencil already. And that's okay. That's okay. So I'm not going to bother. So I'm going to go for the purple again. Now, once I lift this off, I could go back into it, but there it is. So that's what we've got now. So we've gone from having a plain piece. I'm going to bring it up close so you can see it. Look, I don't know if the light, I hope it's focusing. You see it? Yeah. So I've done that. But I'm thinking to myself, having done that, right, I think down here is a little bit naked. See, a little bit. So I need to do something. So it's okay. I know I've lifted it off. So now what I'm going to do is just sort of place it. I just want to bring a little bit of ghosting of the purple down there. So it doesn't really matter. I've put a little corner of the stencil in and I've faded it down. Now, sometimes the best made plans, right? Sometimes you'll think, oh, I just need it right there. And then when you start doing it, you think, well, actually, I need a bit more here or there. It doesn't matter, okay? So what I'm going to do, having done that bit there, I'm going to do a little bit here, right in this corner, because that's quite a big area. And I don't want, certainly don't want to get it on my white cat. So, and I quite like that purple. So I'm going to stick with the purple because I think the purple does give it some nice color. So I'm putting a bit more purple on there again. Now, as I'm adjusting to working on it, I can see now, you know, I get a feel for what pressure is needed to give me the effect that I want. So I'm going to put a bit more of that navy in there, or the Twilight there. So now we take that away. We've got a bit more. It's a lot more atmospheric than it was before. And you know, actually, I've decided to just go for bust in that corner. And all I'm going to do here is put a tiny bit because I think that's quite enough. And we don't want it completely overpowered, right? And I'll tell you what I was thinking. As I'm working here, I'm thinking to myself, and I don't know if I've got it in the versifying. I might have to use one of my... Just thought, wouldn't it be fun to introduce just a little touch of lime green? So what I've done is, got it on my finger, I've gone with that lime punch, which is the Elements, which is the water-soluble one I didn't really want to use, but unfortunately I haven't got a green in any other color. So I wouldn't mind getting a little bit of green in there, that lime. Yeah, perfect. So I'm quite happy with that. I just got a little bit of lime in there, didn't want too much. So now my my witch is in, I think, looks a lot more atmospheric, looks more complete, and I'm really chuffed with that. Okay, so that's the witch is in, and I'm going to put that to one side. It will go back on the finished pile. Oh, and another thing, I do like to leave it for a little while to, you know, just to make sure the color has settled in. But, you know, if I were to touch that color now, you see, it's not coming off. Perfectly fine. And it doesn't clog up your holes because you don't want that, do you? It's not going to help. So I'm going to just quickly put the lids on these because it's important to remember who is who. So that's my navy or my Twilight. That's my Morning Mist, which I didn't really use, which was the gray. And this one is my purple, which is my my Monarch. Right, so that was just a little extra. What really brought us to the table wasn't that. Now, over the weekend, or the last few days, Soda Stitch, put my teeth back in, Soda Stitch had a sale on Etsy. Now, I do have one or two Soda Stitch patterns in my stash, but, you know, I don't know, just hanging around, you know how it is. Decided, oh, I'll have a look, and then you know, oh, next thing you know, I've got to have a purchase. And this particular one caught my eye. Now, let me just get it out. Let's just move that out of the way for you. And I just get rid of the that one. So this particular pattern caught my eye. I'm going to take it out of the bag. That's Soda Stitch. And I love, you know, I do like Soda Stitch. I've never really, I'm trying to think. I've got one ongoing, but everybody raves on about Soda Stitch, right? And I tell you something, until you start stitching a Soda Stitch, you don't realize just how pretty they are. They're a Korean company, and they sell PDFs, and they also sell patterns. So this one is called Princess Mermaids, although I like to call it the Mermaid Sisters. Yeah, so that's it there. Show it to you, see if I can get it on and show. Very nice. Their patterns are very good. The print is very big. You can either print it off in black and white, or you can print it off in color. So anyway, so I got my mermaids, and I thought, oh, I'll do them as one set. So I started the stitching, and I'll show you where I got up to, my progress. Whoops, sorry, that's one of their threads. I'm stitching it in CXCs, and I'm doing it on a 28 count linen. That's where I've started there. Very, very pale though. I don't know if you can see it. It's just the tail of the first mermaid there. And, you know, it's really nice. I dyed the linen as well, and you can barely see the color on purpose. It's got a bit of blue on it. Let me see if I can find something to put behind it. Hang on. Pop this behind it, see if you can see it. Bear with. You see, I only wanted the very slightest amounts of blue on it, because if you look again at the picture, you see it does have all the little fishes and, you know, all little things going on, and I intend to embellish with beads and so on and so forth. So I didn't want it too bright, and what I've done is I've added Krynic in the tail, and all my girls are going to have Krynic in their tails. I know what you're thinking, crazy lady. But you know what? I just used the Krynic, one piece of Krynic, short lengths, with or metallic thread, because some of them are going to be gold metallic, with like a carrier. When I say a carrier, so I have one strand of the Krynic and one strand of the CXC or DMC, if that's what you're using. And I find that that works quite well. It stops the shredding and it carries it. And then what you get, you still get your nice sparkle, but you get a little hint. But anyway, that's not why we're here. Why we're here is because I decided, wouldn't it be fun to have some seaweed? Now, you see, that has already got some seaweed in there, in which you're going to stitch in. It also has some bubbles and the fish, and they're quite cute, and you can do quite a bit with that. But I thought, it still looks to me a bit stark, and one of the reasons that attracted me to this pattern is I thought that it had room for artistic license. Let's just say, you know how I like to bring a bit of me to the table. So I decided I'm gonna do some stenciling in here. Now, you could do it afterwards, but the thing is, if you're going to convincingly, I know these ones are in between and they're not touching the mermaid, so that's okay. But to me, if I'm going to put a backdrop in, it needs to make it convincing and to make it work and to bond these girls to the background. My thinking is, at some point, these girls need to stitch over the whatever I'm putting on, because, you know, the weed would be behind them, wouldn't it, or whatever, and it gives the sense of, going to give the sense of depth. So what I did was I went through my folder of stencils, try and find something suitable, and I came up with this one here. Okay, and it's a bit of an abstract one. It's got dragonflies on it, and I think it's meant to be water reeds or whatever. But, you know, I thought that would suit my purposes. And if I put it on a bit of white, you might be able to see it better. Okay. Because I didn't want anything too compact or dense. I don't want it to interfere with my girls. And I just want it to be like a background area to give that feeling that the water is quite deep. So we're going to be doing the same as we did before. Now, my only concern is this sponge here is a little bit dark on that side. So I'm not going to use the tip. I like to use the tip. I think I'm going to select on the back here because we're not going to be using such dark colors. Now, I've already tested a little bit here, right, using the Versifying Clear, because we're going to use that again, Versifying Clear, that one. But we're going to use some slightly different colors. Now, I'm taking my information or inspiration from what's already here and what they've prescribed. Now, I'm going to put a bit of green in, I think. I do like the fact that there are all these pinks and purple accents. And actually, if you notice, that one is pink and that one is blue. So I'm not going to suddenly be contrary and put completely opposing colors. So I'm going to use maybe, I think, that one, which is Charming Pink. That one, which is Shady Lane. Okay. And which other one did I pull out? Oh, yes. And I pulled out this one here, which is another favorite of mine, which is called Warm Breeze, which is sort of like a turquoise. And I just thought of another color, and now it slipped my mind. Oh, yes, I know. There was one other that I just thought of. Let me just go in the drawer. I keep everything here in my drawers. I have everything organized in my rooms. I have to, because there's so much in here. One day I'll have to give you a studio tour. And that's another possible. That one is called Purple Delight. So these are my colors that I'm gonna mess about with. Okay. So I need to be really careful because this fabric is quite light, and what I don't want is to have any transfer. So I'm going to move the picture out of the way now, because I know in my mind, you can see I tested that on the hoop because the hoop mark is there. And what I'm using is a Nerge square hoop, which is this one. I do like a Nerge, as you know. So I've taken it out of the hoop for now. Okay. And I'll be able to start stitching again straight away. No problem. So what we're going to do, and I'm going to, hopefully you can see what's going on. I'm going to move my threads out the way. I'll show you, shall I show you the needle minder? Look, you know I love a minder. Look at her, she's perfect. She's even got little sparkles in her, and she's a cute little mermaid. So let's get her out of the way. So we're going to be quick about this, because I don't want to keep you too long. Besides, I want to get back to my stitching. So what I'm going to do, and you know the stencil is, you can use it on either side. So suppose you wanted that dragonfly on that side of your work, you could do it that way. If you wanted to reverse him, you would stencil on the other side. But we're not using the dragonfly because you don't get them under the sea. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just pick where I'm going to put. Now, you see, I've tested that to give me an idea of how it's going to come out. And I'm not going to go mad on it. I don't want the whole thing to be covered. And I don't want the seaweed to look like they're swimming through the forest, because that's not a good idea either. Okay, so what I'm going to do now. Okay, so I paused for a second just to get myself a bit more organized. And I needed to recharge the battery a little bit, and also to fetch myself a clean sponge. Now the sponges are washable, so you can wash them. I mean, they don't lose the color, you know, like they still look a bit dirty, but it does drop some of the color. Anyway, so let's crack on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some stenciling, but I want to take that stenciling all the way down to the bottom. And the reason being is that when the piece is framed, right, because it's going to be framed, I want that weed to disappear underneath. What I don't want is weed to stop, the end of the seaweed to stop right at the bottom. So let's just move that thread out of the way. So off we go. So got my stencil. The other thing I just noticed actually is that these are quite cool, these little holes, because they could be potentially, you know, some indication of bubbles maybe in a turquoise blue. But I'm not going to worry about that just now. I'm going to put the weeds in, pardon me. And then what I'm going to do is might be pausing you for a little while to go and look in the stencil folder again, see if I can find something which is, I've got things which are more bubble like, so because those are a bit small actually and clustered. I don't want that. So anyway, without further ado, let's crack on. So again, like with the other one, I'm not looking to stencil in this whole length of seaweed. That is not the idea. For me, when I use stencils, I like to what I call breaking that stencil. So I'm just picking up little areas of the stencil. So let us start with the Shady Lane here. So I'm going to take my lid off and put it somewhere safe, because the tops will have a bit of glue on, and not glue, ink. And you know, so I'm checking my fingers the whole time. I don't know where I've put my bit of kitchen roll. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. Okay. Real life, I'm afraid, as usual in my life. So off we go without further ado. So I'm going to pick up that one. But actually, I've got another one here open as well, which is the pink, Charming Pink. And I'm going to open the turquoise. And the reason why I open them all is because when I'm working, right, I just want to be able to I haven't got time to be opening. And besides, if you keep opening them in between work, you have more of a chance of polluting your fingers and then polluting your work. So I'm going to wipe my fingers quick, and then we're off. So I'm going to go in to the Shady Lane. Okay, and I'm just going in now. This is a new sponge, so it will need a little seasoning, but it's got a bit of green on it there. And what I'm going to do is bring it down here. Okay, right down here. Hold it down. Now the stencil is a little bit thin, so a bit tricky. And I'm just going to put in that green. But I'm going to also, on one corner of the sponge, put a little bit of this purple. And I'm going to show you what happens when you do that. So I've put the green in, and I'm kind of going over a little bit of the green with the purple. So you end up with that. You see it? It's a little toning, which is really nice. And I'm just going to be putting bits and bobs, a little bit there. Because some of this is going to be covered up by the stitching, which is fine. Okay. Just giving the feeling there's something going on here. And actually, I think I need a bit more green. Hold on. A bit more of the green. Okay, a little bit there. See, just at the bottom. Because I don't want straight lines either, because seaweed doesn't grow like that. And so I'm doing some at the bottom, but I'm also going to do a little bit randomly in the middle. Not a lot, though. It's very important. You don't want to overpower. And actually, I'm looking at that green one there, and if it's a bit light, I'm thinking maybe I could do with... I've got another green here, which this one is called Green Oasis, and it is... Whoop, Lordy. You see, this is how accidents happen. Did you see that? Right on the back of my linen. So let's just move that away. This is how it happens, but it doesn't matter. No harm done. I'm going to try this darker green here. The Shady Lane is a little bit light. I'm not sure. I don't mind a little of it, but it is a little bit light. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the same place, and I'm just going to overlay it a little bit, and I'm just going to put some of that darker green in. So that's nice. So the Shady Lane will still be used, but I'm liking that darker tone. It catches the tone in that fish. Bearing in mind, you know, you'd have probably pulled your threads, so, you know, you're going to get a better idea. A little bit there. See, I'm just kind of randomly going over my fabric a little. A little bit here. And I don't want it bright. I don't want it really dark, right? Because I want the girls to look like they're swimming through something. I'm going to try a little bit of that turquoise. Just tiny, tiny. There. Very, very light. Very light. And I do like the turquoise, so I'm going to... And I'm keen to not have those really wide bits. So I'm going for the skinnier, targeting the skinnier bits. Here, a little bit. And that one, plus that dark green, you really need to keep it away from your work. Sorry. Dark green there. Just put in a little bit there, a little bit here. Yeah, a little bit there, and hopefully the girls will swim through that. So I hope you're all having a good Sunday, although you won't be seeing this on Sunday because I need to wait for Simon to come back to do the editing for you. But I hope you've had a nice stitchy weekend, because I'm probably going to release this video along with last week's video, as unfortunately we did manage to get last week's one out to you because Simon had to go off to the show. And you know, I'm unfortunately not that I'm not that IT aware. I'm not that good with the editing and all that business, so I do depend on him quite a lot to do it. And you know, but we have the business to run, and this time of year, as I explained on the last video, it's really hectic, you know, because we just have so much going on. And we do have to have the business to think about, as well as obviously hanging out with you guys. So I'm just putting a little bit more in there. That's that one. Now at the minute it might look a bit strange because, you know, there's nothing else here. But once you start getting the stitching in, I think it's going to give it a bit more atmosphere than what it would have had. And I'm going to go across with a bit, you know. So a little bit there. And then I'm going to bring just a tiny bit up here. Not too much, you see. And I'm just looking at the colors I've got here. Just looking at the colors. Go a little bit that way so we get a bit more movement. I'm just thinking Shady Lane again, maybe a little bit of turquoise, and I'm gonna just come across here. Now if I wanted to extend that one down, you know, from where it is now, all I would do is something like that. I just lay that other one where that one ended, and then I pick up, so now it comes down here as well. So I'm quite pleased, you know, so I'm moving the stencil at different angles, because if you're under the water, that's what would be happening, wouldn't it? So I'm more or less kind of, oops, don't like that ink being there. Let's move that across. Keep my side here quite clear, because what I don't want is any nasty accidents, guys. That would be bad. Hope you can see. Hope I'm still in shot. Because I've been too busy doing, I haven't been paying attention. Okay, so now one of the things I did notice actually is somewhere here, that weed, you see that one? Can you see it? Got some little holes there. I'm going to try a little experiment. So I've got the blue, the turquoisey color, and I just, yeah, you see, this is why I don't want to use them as holes. I don't mind that, but for the impression of bubbles, the holes are too small. So I'm going to have to pause you in a minute, and then I'm going to have a look to see what else I've got. And I'm just using now a bit of this blue to just kind of, because I'm nearly finished, really. I don't want much more than that. Because afterwards, when I finish them, if I wanted to put a little bit, touch it up here and there, I can, right? But I'm going to use a little bit of this blue here, because it just pulls together some of that green. So I've gone over the stencil again to bring the color down here a little, so it's not so stark. Okay, it's very, very gentle. I mean, you can barely see it. It's like a ghosting on here. Just a tiny bit up here somewhere. Now I need to be careful, because I have actually stitched here, and what I don't want is to go over my nice white thread on her tail. But I'm kind of pleased how this is coming on, so that's cool. I'm really happy with that. Okay, this is using the blue now. So I've kept my more darker colors down the bottom, and what I'm doing is using a little bit of this blue, the turquoisey color, just up here, very gently, very, very gently. And it gives this feeling of movement before I even put my girls on. Going around here now, very pale, very, very pale. And also the other thing that's really important is scale, right? Because some of it I've used a lot of skinny, but now I'm going to use some of the darker aspects, sorry, not darker, the bigger holes to give. I mean, that dragonfly would be really nice on the right fabric, wouldn't it? You know, for the right stitch. I'm just going to put some of these bigger feelings here, up here with the blue. Nice and big. That's it. Lovely. Very pleased with that. So pretty much, you know, I don't know, to be honest, if I'm even going to bother with the bubbles, because there are stitched bubbles. Sorry, I just get the picture to show you. I can't show you the chart, obviously. You see, we already have all these pitch bubbles, these... God, what's wrong with my teeth today? Stitched bubbles, which we have charted. It doesn't mean that I'm only going to stitch them in these places. I could add in the odd one at lib around the place, so I could take advantage of that chart. Same with the fish. You know, I can position them here, but I could also put a few random fish around and take advantage of the chart that they've given me. Same with the seaweed. Even though they're here, the coral or whatever, you don't have to just put the coral where they're prescribed for that coral to go. So I am thinking now, apart from just a little blending here with this blue, because I really am liking that. I think the reason why I like this blue so much, the shadow of the blue, is that the fabric was dyed that blue, a pale blue. And I think somehow this is kind of bringing out my blue accents. So I've got my green at the bottom there, and I'm really loving how this turquoise is going. And what it is doing is giving me a sense of movement before my girls are stitched on. And you don't want to go crazy, okay? So I'm going to put a little bit up here. And you see what I've done is I've almost gone in this sort of inward direction to give the feeling of that swirling water around them. And I'm just using the residue now on here, because there's enough on there just to give that feeling. I think framed up, this is going to be rather pretty. And I'm probably going to add beads, maybe even some little shells. Don't know. See how it goes once it goes. So yeah, so here there's a bit of thread. And it doesn't matter if you have some areas like here, there's nothing there. I don't mind that very much. Now, the only thing I have noticed, I did put a little bit of that pink in, and the Purple Delight. Oh dear, no, I don't want to do that, because I'm going to mix the blue with, I've created a different purple there. I'm going to go very, very gently. It's just that I'm mindful of the fact that that pink is there and it's nowhere else, right? And I don't want a lot of it, but at the end of the day, you can't have that thing in isolation. It's going to annoy you. So I'm going to put a little bit, but I just want it really fine, really fine. So now I think I'm happy with that. I think I don't want any more. I don't want it to overpower my girls. I think now what I'm going to do is I'm going to carry on stitching. And yeah, and that's that. And I will hopefully show you my progress before the video gets fully finalized. Hope you enjoyed that little demonstration. And I will do a few little demos like this from time to time. As I said at the beginning, when I first started, I'm just shutting up all the inks, you know, started this process, this whole journey on Flosstube. Don't know where it's gonna go, you know, it's a bit of an adventure. So, you know, it might be that we have demos or whatever's, and I just wanted to share that journey with all of you out there, and hopefully as well share some of my skills and my knowledge, and also learn things as well. So you see, I've already misappropriated the top of that, so I'll look for that in a minute. Oh, and I don't know if you probably could see them in the side. So before I go, I just show you what was sitting here. I didn't intend to show it, but it's there. These are some of my lovely K-facet fabrics. I use them in my artwork, but I can always also use them in my cross stitch or whatever I want to do. Beautiful, beautiful. I do like color. Anyway, so that's that for the demo. Hope you enjoyed. Yeah, and take care, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now. Bye.